You'd think the American dream would be quiet. I thought so when I signed the papers. Corner lot. 13 sprinkler heads under new Kentucky bluegrass. Riverstone edging where my wife Sarah wanted rosemary and thyme. A maple on one side, a dogwood on the other, a gentle curve of turf that made the corner look like it wanted to be kind. I'm Marcus Thompson, 52, union electrician. 30 years of malls that don't blink. Hospitals that can't flicker. Emergency lights that come on even when the world goes dark. I'm not good at yelling. I'm very good at permanence. We chose the house because Sarah needed a place that didn't argue with her. Early stage Parkinson's means some days her hands go on walkabouts. She can't keep a big garden anymore, but she can sit in the sun and listen to the sprinklers pat the rosemary. I wanted that to be our morning. Day 1, tire tracks across fresh turf. Okay, tight corner. Delivery truck probably. Day 2, deeper tracks. Same diagonal. You don't miss a curb by 18 feet. That's a choice. Day 3. I stood under the maple and watched a white BMW X5 with Karen W on the plate drift the corner like a bored race car and cut across my lawn. She didn't miss the turn. She edited it. I don't do names. I do fixes. I went to Tony's Hardware. Bought a motion camera. Hose clamped it to a downspout so I didn't scar the siding. Tied in a little battery pack because an electrician's cameras don't go dark when someone yanks a cord. At 7:47 a.m., like a metronome, she came. The camera caught her hand perched at 12 o'clock on the wheel, stainless band flashing. People tell you who they are by the way they hold a wheel. She held it like the wheel should be grateful. I did the neighborly thing, walked across her new pavers. Sarah watched from behind the curtain with a please not a fight face. Mrs. Whitmore, I said, I'm Marcus, the corner. Your turn's cutting across. It's a free country, she said, checking hydrangeas. Maybe don't plant so close to the road if you can't handle a little traffic. That's my property, I said. Survey stakes say the corner's inside my line. She turned slow, TV lawyer style. Are you threatening me? Sweet as antifreeze. My husband built this neighborhood. I'm on the HOA board. You're about to learn how things work here. I'd be very, very careful. People who don't work with electricity say careful twice. The first very is for them. The second is for you. I went home with gravel crunching under my boots like a metronome, kissed Sarah's forehead. I'll handle it. 30 years of troubleshooting teaches you to separate symptoms from causes. A car cutting a corner is a symptom. Permission is the cause. You don't negotiate with permission. You pull it. Saturday I bought 8 low-voltage landscape floods, motion sensors, weatherproof boxes, zip conduit. Residential under 30V doesn't need a permit here. I checked code twice and printed it because my foreman taught me to never walk into a building without paper. I ran the line inside the boundary. 6-foot spacing, buried 2 inches. Joints I'd be proud to find in a hospital E-light system 20 years from now. I hid a tiny battery pack under the river stones so when line voltage died, the cameras and 3 floods stayed up. Real emergency lighting doesn't ask permission. Monday, 7:47 a.m. Her bumper broke the sensor and the boundary lit. 8,000 lumens of not your driveway. She braked, saw spots, then drove through anyway. Tuesday she laid on the horn and woke a row of indoor cats. Wednesday night the backup camera caught her in leggings and a hoodie kicking each flood over like a toddler tossing chairs. She didn't see the second camera's red eye of Sauron. It saw her. It heard the words she had for me when she thought the night was louder than my wire. Friday, an HOA notice arrived on expensive logo paper with cheap thinking. Excessive lighting, disturbing tranquility, fines $300. Signed, Treasurer, Karen Whitmore. I called my insurance. Vandalism claim, I said. Security video on a card. They sent Elliot, who smelled like coffee in collections. He measured, crouched, frowned at my plastic survey stakes. Mr. Thompson, he said, get a real survey. PLS beats plastic. There's a taste you get right before a breaker you've been testing clicks. Metallic, expectant. I tasted that. The county recorder's office smells like toner and thyme. 2019 Millbrook Heights survey, I asked. The clerk pulled it. Hemlock and Sons. The corner line where I expected. 12 feet farther east than my markers. Corner pin, 3/4-inch rebar, set 5 feet. Hemlock's block letter hand. Then a 2020 corrected survey. Measurement corrections for municipal compliance. A stamp that looked licked. A signature, Derek Whitmore, licensed contractor. No permit revision. No inspection log movement. No change order. A new line that stole feet without a face. I ordered certified copies. One more, I said. FOIA. HOA complaints last 18 months. 47 complaints. 32 filed by Karen. Garden gnomes, wind chimes, paint palette, unauthorized driveway radius. One against my lights, disturbs tranquility. Sarah was asleep when I got home. Parkinson's is rude about naps. I pulled a blanket over her knees and read her the part of the 2019 survey that said, corner pin present. So someone took it after, she murmured. Or buried it, I said. She smiled like the day she married a man who smells like solder. Pete arrived Wednesday. 10 minutes after shaking my hand, his rodman found Hemlock's iron under 2 inches of sod. Magnetometer scream, spade pop, wire brush, and there was the orange rust crown of truth. They shot it with the rover, 6/100ths off Hemlock. Pete laughed. Hemlock was a stickler. By afternoon we had 4 corners and a red spray paint line that made my corner look different. Honest. The Whitmore's retaining wall, 4.5 feet onto me. No wonder those azaleas never thrived. Roots hate guilt. 18 feet they stole from you, Pete said, tape clicking back into his thumb. Patterson loses 12, Henderson 8, Garcia's 15. I stood on the red line like a man reading his name on a headstone and expected it to say something else. We recorded Pete's plat. Sue at the recorder pressed the heavy stamp like a priest's hand on a forehead. I walked to planning and asked for an email memorializing a simple fact. Residential low-voltage landscape lights under 30 V need no permit unless within 2 feet of sidewalk. She replied in 12 minutes. I printed 3 copies, one for the garage, one for the folder, one by the coffee maker. Code enforcement. Dave showed up with an anonymous complaint, a clipboard, sunglasses. I showed him the planner's email and the code section. He wrote the citation anyway. You can appeal. I called Tom, the city investigator. He documented, said words like pattern and fast track, and then left on a radio call about a fire at a Whitmore job site. No permits, bad wiring. Sometimes it all hits at once, he said, and went to a place more urgent than my corner. I called 811 because I sleep better when I smell paint on the grass. The locate tech sprayed orange dotted lines. You're clear, he said. I emailed planning. Do I need a permit for a decorative bollard placed 8 inches inside my boundary, 42 inches tall, reflective, not obstructing sight triangle? No permit, she replied. Maintain sight lines. Miguel, my concrete guy, squinted at the spec. What is it with you electricians and overbuilding? Everything I build is for someone who can't afford it to fail, I said. This is my wife's corner. We dug 5 feet, 4 bars of half-inch rebar, ties every 18 inches, 4,000 psi concrete, reflective sleeve, bronze cap. I tamped the backfill myself. Nobody cares about straight lines like a man who wires rows of fixtures so every lens throws clean. I set a small plaque. Maple Grove Memorial Garden, Esteem 2024. Sarah planted rosemary and thyme around it, and the smell made the morning different. I repositioned the cameras, set coffee on the counter, checked the clock. At 7:47 a.m., fate's schedule kept. The BMW's passenger wheel met concrete at the angle I'd measured. The tire popped. The rim screamed. Suspension found parts of itself it wasn't supposed to meet. The hood dipped. The car slewed. Hazard lights blinked with rare honesty. I sipped coffee and stepped onto the porch. Good morning, Mrs. Whitmore, I said. That's a decorative landscape feature. You set a trap, she spat. You're going to jail. It's inside my line, I said. Reflective, visible, legal, driver error on private property. She called the police. Officer Rodriguez measured without borrowing my tape. He looked at Pete's stamp, the planner's email, the 811 ticket, the reflective sleeve, and wrote, Driver error, private. Call your insurer, he told her. She called Derek instead. I'm in the middle of an inspection, Karen, came his voice. Handle it. The tow truck hauled the X5 away. Every neighbor who'd flinched at her horn stood in their windows and pretended to watch TV, while they breathed for the first time all week. That night, Mrs. Patterson knocked and held up her phone like a kid with a loose tooth. She's planning to make it look like a gas leak, she whispered. Video. Karen pacing, hissing into her phone. I don't care what it costs. I want that thing gone by Friday. Make it look like emergency utility work. I've coordinated hundreds of permits. I know what emergency work looks like when it hasn't been permitted. A yellow backhoe at 10:12 a.m. No signage, no barricades. An operator who keeps looking over his shoulder. I called the gas company, water and electric. Any emergency work on Maple Grove? No. I called 911. 2 patrol cars and a supervisor found exactly what I said. An operator who didn't know how to answer questions, and a woman with designer boots and a voice that sounds like guilt when you record it. The operator saved himself with a voicemail. Karen, offering 10 grand. The handcuffs clicked with a sound you don't hear often in the suburbs, unless someone's been doing the wrong thing the right way for too long and ran out of neighbors, willing to keep quiet as they put her in the back seat. She leaned toward me, lips pressed so tight her teeth went purple. You have no idea what you've started. I know exactly what I've started, I said. Paper. Bullies think you're playing checkers. We weren't. We were building a panel, breaker by breaker, until the thing lit without tripping. That night I slept the way you do after a job that doesn't talk back. Coffee. Daylight. Sarah in my old union shirt. How many times did you check the cameras? She asked. 3, I said. Checked the bolts twice. Sometimes the tremor doesn't show. Sometimes that's a roll of dice. Sometimes it's a house doing its job. The day after the cuffs, I started where paper lives. Again. I took the surveys and recordings to my attorney, Sarah Kim, property law, eyebrows built for nonsense letters. A room that smells like new legal pads. You brought me dessert, she said, laying out the original survey. The correction, and Pete's certified GPS plat-like evidence. Dessert? Encroachment plus altered surveys plus a code officer writing fiction, she said. This will feed good work. Plan, record Pete's survey. Done. Send. Encroachment notice to the Whitmores. Remove wall in 30 days or pay fees. File a notice of encroachment against their parcel so any buyer sees the cloud FOI the city for every correction since 2019. Build the map. Theft at this scale doesn't use ski masks. It uses paper. I handed her Mrs. Patterson's spiral notebook. Dates, short notes, tidy like a detective who found a hobby. She's a treasure, Sarah said. Tell her not to edit a word. We served Derek and Karen, certified mail and a polite knock. You've been served. We logged the encroachment notice at the recorders before lunch. The clerk stamped it and said, You and Pete make us look powerful. The FOA batches came in smelling like toner and bad habits. It wasn't 1 correction, it was 9. Measurement errors, signed like Derek's handwriting. Heavy pen some days, barely there others. No change orders, no notices to affected owners, no minutes acknowledging boundary changes. People lost feet, like photos trimmed to fit a frame bought on sale. Half the time you win by telling a story, you don't have to exaggerate. The map wrote itself. Mrs. Patterson and I canvassed. Henderson blinked at the plat. I thought the corner felt weird, he said. He'd measured, and then told himself he must be wrong. He wasn't. The Garcias, boxes still in the garage, flag waiting for a bracket, looked at the overlay. Maria put a hand to her mouth. We thought maybe it was a fee we didn't understand, she said. 15 feet is not a fee. We called Sarah Kim. We're demanding correction for everyone, I said. Make me a list, she said. I'll make them a letter. Meanwhile, code enforcement started to creak. Tom's write-up went to the city attorney. HR got called. Counseling plans died when someone opened a file and saw approved inspection during a baseball game Dave had posted on Facebook. They put Dave on leave. The memo said, pending investigation. The hallway said, resign. None of that put my grass back. None of that unkicked my lights. None of that erased the piece of Sarah's mind that had to live with a car crossing her corner. But it mattered. The HOA sent a newsletter with a subject line that sounded tired. Community update. Words like respectful dialogue and concern. A special meeting Thursday. A proposed resolution condemning the erection of hostile objects within community view. Hostile objects made me laugh so hard I had to sit down. Sarah laughed so hard she cried. We put the letter in the folder. Sarah Kim warned, they'll try a TRO, temporary restraining order, to make you remove the bollard. It won't hold. It's reflective, visible, inside your line, outside the sight triangle. Should I go to the hearing? I asked. You sit on your porch, she said. I'll handle the noises. You handle the bolts. She filed our paper. Photos of the bollard at 20, 10, and 5 feet. The 811 ticket. The planner's email. Pete's survey with the 8-inch buffer highlighted. The code section. My affidavit. It's not in the sight triangle. I watch kids at that corner. My wife's garden is within 3 feet. I'm not that man. The judge denied the TRO the day they filed it. One line. Applicant failed to show likelihood of success on the merits. Respondent's installation appears code compliant and within boundary. Quiet is what law sounds like when it's honest. The city posted a council agenda. Property boundary corrections, code enforcement practices, public comment, 200 people for a room built for 50. Fluorescence hummed. The air felt like a gym before tip-off. Before all that, an hour mattered more. George knocking with a cordless drill. You want to move a chair? Mrs. Patterson handing me the spiral. The Garcias sliding a flash drive across my table. Ben the mailman stopping to say, I've got tomorrow's HOA mail. Want to guess who wrote 10 of them? Guess? I said. I don't need to. Are you good? He asked. Better than yesterday, I said. That's the job, he said, flicking my mailbox closed. The meeting opened. Chairman Bob tapping the gavel like a cheap nail. We're here for property boundaries and code enforcement. Karen's lawyer stood first. He said, attractive nuisance like it had teeth. Public hazard. Established traffic pattern, which is lawyer for, we've been breaking the law long enough to think it's an easement. Councilwoman Gonzalez asked if he knew what inside the line meant. He tried sight triangle and got it wrong. He called my bollard a trap. The room made a noise I haven't heard since a principal swore into a mic by accident. Sarah Kim stood. She doesn't perform, she constructs. Exhibit 1. Pete's certified GPS survey with the stamp. The photos of iron pins. The red line the correction tried. The black line, that is. The laser pointer cut the stolen feet like a scalpel. Throats cleared. Exhibit 2. FOIA stack. 32 HOA complaints in one hand. 12 code approvals that moved too fast on Whitmore jobs. One approval logged at a time. A man was at a ball game. That one made me sad. A man can ruin himself with a pen casually. Exhibit 3. Video edited by the Garcia's son like he was born to teach evidence. 3 months of a white BMW cutting my corner. Karen at midnight kicking my lights. My 8 weapon marks. The hole, the cage, the concrete, the reflector. 7:47 a.m. Physics versus arrogance. The excavator. Her cash offer. The cuffs. Councilman Patel asked the city attorney, can the city apologize? Yes, the chair said it. Mr. Thompson, we're sorry. He meant it. They rescinded my fine. Referred code enforcement to HR. Hired an outside auditor for surveys and approvals since 2019. Ordered Derek to remove the wall or face daily penalties. Recommended the HOA stop using code enforcement as a toy. A woman at the back, blazer, quiet, stepped forward and held up a badge. Patricia Rodriguez, FBI, she said. We have an ongoing investigation into municipal corruption and construction fraud in this region. If any resident has documentation of survey corrections or expedited approvals tied to private favors, we want to see it. Phones came out like prairie dogs. Karen grabbed her neck like a necklace could fix things. We went home. I didn't sleep. I catalogued. New binder tab. City Fed. Printed the council resolution, the auditor's terms, Agent Rodriguez's card, and a short email. Good to meet you. We have neighbors. We have names. I tucked Mrs. Patterson's spiral into a manila sleeve like it belonged in a museum. Sarah's herb garden smelled like curse words redeemed. The rosemary leaned toward the bollard as if it forgave it for being ugly and necessary. Across the street, the Garcias chased their twins across grass that is now theirs, and always was. People ask why I didn't yank the bollard after all that. You don't dismantle the lesson the minute your teenager says, I get it. You let it set like concrete. Then you let flowers soften it. In my inbox the next morning, special meeting. Resolution to censure Marcus Thompson. I clicked print. Paper tells the truth about noise. I wasn't worried about censure. I was worried about Sarah laughing again. The twins running to school without a car thinking it was a person. Dave Henderson getting his 8 feet back. We booked a block meeting at Tony's. Coffee that tasted like hardware. Back bay door open. We made a list on a sheet of plywood. Henderson. 8. Back Patterson. 12. Garcias. 15. Martinez. 6. Thompson. Wall. Remove. We divided labor. The Garcia's son cut more clips. Mrs. Patterson made calls like a telemarketer working for good. We drafted the Millbrook Neighborhood Justice Fund. Recorders, file fees. It didn't feel neat. It felt necessary. Days after weren't heroic. They were emails, notarizations, recorder visits, HR calls that end with, we can't comment on personnel. They were the growing quiet you get when a bully has to talk to a judge instead of a neighbor. A process server handed me a complaint. Karen, new lawyer, 5 causes of action with names like intentional infliction and nuisance. Sarah Kim smiled like a surgeon with an appendix that wanted out. Motion to dismiss. Exhibits. Planner's email. 811 ticket. Pete's survey. Photos of reflective sleeve. The TRO denial. Hearing in 3 weeks. The HOA's censure died on the vine. Half-empty room. Grey board. Agenda missing the resolution. Nose counting is a skill. Audit started. We kept our heads down. Planted lavender, because bees need reasons to forgive corners. Neighbors dropped by, just to say hi, and left with envelopes and certified receipts. Dave Henderson came with his hat in his hands. "We'd like to pay you back for the bollard," he said. "Take Mrs. Patterson to the recorder instead," I said. "Bring a flash drive, blue pen. That's better than money." That night, a teenager peeled down the block too fast and saw the reflective sleeve in time to learn a different line. He slowed. He swung the full 90. He didn't die. Permanent solutions prevent problems you never get to brag about. That's the best kind. I fell asleep looking at the corner. Reflector bright, rosemary dark, bollard the color of work. My foreman's line came back in the heat. "We make quiet, not noise. Quiet that stays." 3 weeks later at the courthouse, the judge used frivolous, bad faith, attorney's fees. He pointed at the planner's email. Code compliant. The 811 ticket, due care. The survey, inside the line. He made a noise at attractive nuisance that meant absolutely not. On the steps, Sarah said, "You could have yelled, made it uglier." "I don't know how," I said. "You do," she smiled. "You decide not to. That's why our house likes us," Agent Rodriguez called. "Check code enforcement's unavailable log against country club tea times," I said. She laughed. "Come work for me," she said. "I'll always prefer copper and concrete." But it felt good to hear the right nouns. Friday, Mrs. Patterson showed with cookies and an agenda. "Tony's giving us Wednesdays," she said. "We're calling it workshop." Workshop? Property rights, FOIA, recorder copies without wanting to die, how to talk to a cop without sounding like you want to fight. "We'll need coffee," I said. "I've got Ben," she said. "He's good." We clinked lemonade and watched the corner. It didn't move. The rosemary leaned toward the bollard and looked like love. I've set a lot of pole bases. My hands know rebar and tamp and pour, but nothing I ever set in concrete meant more than 8 inches of reflective, code-compliant, aesthetically questionable proof you can build a solution that changes the world at exactly 1 corner. The next part would be bigger. Restitution, the HOA turning into a roads and utilities outfit, the FBI's press release I didn't want but later printed and kept. But that night we listened to sprinklers pat rosemary and thyme, and felt a household 2 people who earned it. The bollard didn't move. 3 days after the meeting, the city posted a PDF that didn't try to impress anyone. Interim audit memo. Millbrook. Heights 9 corrected surveys since 2019. No planning minutes acknowledging boundary changes. No change orders in affected building files. 1 inspector approving off-site work during unavailable hours. Anomalous fast approvals on Whitmore construction projects. Recommended immediate actions. Encroachment notices to affected parcels. Removal orders for retaining walls, fencing. Outside council review of code. Enforcement approvals. Refer 1 employee to HR for discipline. Refer survey anomalies to county attorney. It didn't say sorry. The council already had. It said fix it, which is the only word that matters after sorry. HR moved like a town learning to jog. Dave resigned to pursue other opportunities, a phrase paper uses when it wants to be decent, to a man who wasn't. Tom took his desk long enough to find 3 inspection signatures that looked like they'd been applied from memory. Sarah Kim sent encroachment. Letters with the clarity of a spirit level. To the Whitmores. Your wall sits 4.5 feet onto our client's parcel. Remove within 30 days, or we seek injunction, restoration, and fees. Enclosures. Certified survey, recorder index numbers, photos. To neighbors harmed by the shift. You don't need to act, yet. We've demanded removal from Whitmore Construction. The first sawdust at our corner wasn't Derek's. It was Jim Martinez with 2 guys, a wheelbarrow, and a pallet jack. "Just making the stone cheaper to remove," he grinned, scoring caps clean. He measures like he was born with chalk in his hand. Derek's lawyer fired off a letter. "Touch our improvements, and we'll countersue." Sarah forwarded the city's removal order stamped effective immediately and a county photo of the iron pin, labeled Origin. 3 hours later. Mediation? Funny how noise becomes negotiation when a stamp lands. The city offered a friendly correction schedule if homeowners signed permission. Henderson's went first. Dave stood hat in hand like he owed me something. You don't, I said, passing him the waiver so Stone could go back where truth was. The Garcias followed. Pete set new rebar caps and logged license numbers on them like priestly marks. We recorded boundary correction agreements, so future corrections would have to say hello to the owners they affect. Karen didn't do friendly. She sued the city for abuse of process and retaliation. The city moved to dismiss enforcement based on certified data, recorder index documents. The judge needed less than a page. Dismissed with prejudice. The kind of sentence that makes office coffee taste better. Agent Rodriguez called after counsel and again a week later. We have a number, she said. 17 suspected false corrections across 4 subdivisions. Your corner got people talking. The HOA tried to salvage a version of itself. Newsletter, core values, community spirit, support our treasurer. The comment thread ran long, then posted the survey overlay. Someone who'd always kept quiet typed one word. Enough. Sarah Kim drafted a bylaw amendment and hand-delivered it to the 2 board members who cared more about plows than pergolas. Fines only for actual safety hazards, trash, fire, no architectural review for anything not visible from the street publish budgets quarterly, cap management fees, no special assessments without a supermajority, add a conversion clause, with 60% vote, convert to a limited-purpose roads and utilities association. Get this in front of people, she said. You'll have 60% by sundown. They got 78. It surprised even me. People had been sitting on their hands a long time. Hands that can lift tables and pat a baby's back and fix a sagging fence. Give them a plan that isn't yelling. They'll carry it. We didn't wait for ceremony. We mowed lines that matched Pete's plat. We moved stones. We stopped pretending a crooked line was a difference of opinion. Neighbors started dropping by for receipts. The Justice Fund, our idea from Tony's Back Bay, got its first deposit. My settlement check, $38,000, slid across the counter in an envelope Sarah taped a sprig of rosemary onto. Memo line, for people who need to print things. First case, the Martinez family, scammed by a roofer who took a deposit and vanished. Workshop taught them small claims. Mrs. Patterson brought FOIAs like a bailiff in librarian clothes, and a cashier's check arrived the same afternoon. Empanadas showed up at workshop that night. Justice tastes like that sometimes. Second case, the elementary school. A developer tried to enhance open space by sliding the playground boundary for what looked a lot like a house lot. We walked in with Pete's overlay, the original site plan, and second-grader paintings of trees made of their handprints. The commission voted 5-0 to deny. We're not moving childhood for a staircase, one said. I wrote that down. Not every line was applause. Derek filed Chapter 13 after civil penalties hit one of his projects. He signed a letter with a pen that had nothing left in it. Dave took a culvert job 2 counties over where there's less light for men who can't stand the dark they made. Karen pled down to disorderly conduct and false report with restitution. She's not a cartoon. She's a person who made the same choice so often it became her hobby. At the recorders, boundary correction agreements got their own index block. A small thing. A new label in an old book. But it meant 20 years from now, a surveyor like Pete could put his rod where the note says it belongs. The bollard picked up a nickname. I pretended to hate and secretly loved Marcus's marker. Someone stuck a little flag in the rosemary for Memorial Day. I didn't remove it. Sarah said, leave small kind things where you find them. Adjusters started calling me. Not agents, adjusters. How do you document? I sent checklists, photo angles, the 8111 ticket, low voltage code page, Pete's license number. We should run a training, one said. We did. 5 homeowners in Tony's Back Bay, a projector, a spreadsheet, manila folders to keep under their coffee makers like I do. Then the best sign you're winning showed up. People stopped talking about it so much. The Garcias twins rode scooters along the curve. On the road, not the grass. And didn't even glance at the bollard. In their 6-year-old heads, it had always been there. A teenager in a beat Civic slowed, swung a full 90, and kept his life. There's no metric for that. Good. Agent Rodriguez called a month later. We're going to indict in 2 counties, she said. Bake a cake, I offered. Please don't, she said. You sound like a man who measures salt. She's right. I like repeatable recipes. The city auditor closed his report like a carpenter ticking off a punch list. Survey corrections. Now require mailed notice to all adjacent owners code. Approvals above a threshold. Need a second signature. Fines restricted. To trash and fire hazards items corrected so far. 7 walls moved. 3 fences shifted. 2 sheds disassembled and reset. At the next meeting of the HOA that was ending, Ben from the post office brought coffee. The chair read the salt budget. The plow invoice got paid. Dave Henderson raised his hand. Can we plant oaks along Maple Grove? Yes, they said. Bring a tree spade. The meeting lasted 19 minutes. I timed it. It made me happy. Sarah Kim got a note from the Bar Association thanking her for the neighborhood boundary correction template. She taped it above her desk and didn't post it anywhere. She doesn't do victory laps. She does invoices and midnights. Patterson vs. Whitmore. The case nobody will remember because it never went to trial. Ended with a stipulation to remove and a check to the fund. Henderson vs. Whitmore. Consent decree. An offense on Hemlock's line. Garcia vs. Whitmore. A letter that used regrets in a sentence a human wrote. Someone at Tony's asked if I liked winning. I told him the truth. I like sprinklers in the morning, and my wife laughing. I like corners that don't move. I like straight runs in conduit and straight lines in plats, and a house that doesn't argue with right angles. The city mailed a postcard, a cartoon shovel. Call before you dig. 811. Font bigger than they've used for anything. I kept it on the fridge. Winter came. Someone knitted a scarf for the bollard. I took it off when the snow melted and hung it on a hook meant for extension cords. A memento of a lesson that doesn't need to shout to be remembered. We weren't done. We were quieter. That was the point. The fund needed a form. It needed a smell. We set workshop every Wednesday. 10 chairs, whiteboard made from an old door, coffee that tasted like screws. We built a playbook in plastic sleeves, workshop playbook photos, wide, medium, tight, shoe for scale in 1, date on paper in frame, print recorder, grant or grantee search, index numbers, certified copies. Don't smudge the stamp. FOIA. 1 sentence. All records including emails, texts, attachments about parcel issue date. Survey. What a PLS seal looks like. State registration number. Finding iron. 1. Call before you dig. Paint code legend. Write the ticket number on top of your folder. Code. Print the section. Don't quote newsletters. Ask, show me the code section. Court. What to wear. How to say your honor without apologizing for existing. Short affidavits of neighbors. How to ask to take photos. How to bring cookies when you ask for signatures. Don't touch their stuff. Cut wires. Write emails you wouldn't read back in court. Call code on a neighbor's paint. Post angry. Hide nails in turf, Mrs. Patterson insisted. We expected 5 people. 20 showed up. Tony used buckets for chairs. The Garcia's son taught exporting security camera clips with metadata intact. Half the room clapped. Sometimes teenagers just do it right. December's first real snow came sideways. The plow came at 4:31 a.m. like the map said. He passed our corner with the blade down. Salt falling like grey hail. Looped back for a second pass. The cul-de-sac that used to be a slush bowl was a clean donut. The bus arrived at 7:14 and didn't slide. A kid in a red coat waved. The driver waved back. Route underlined by something other than hoping. The board posted a photo. The plow at the corner. Caption, "Thank you, Gary." And a Venmo for the Salt Fund. People sent $10 like they were tithing to a church they could stand. By noon the salt budget was back. The lift station texted a heartbeat. The board signed off. Meeting adjourned. Ben rolled his cart uphill and twisted an ankle on a ridge. Dave Henderson came out with clamps and a scrapboard and fixed a slumped mailbox. The board posted, "We'll throw a half yard of coal patch in that divot when it warms. Stay upright." I love that sentence more than I should. Letters started arriving from other neighborhoods. How do we do workshop? Sarah Kim wrote a 2-page how-to. Pick a place people already come. Pick a time that works for shifts and kids' bedtime. Bring patience and a laser pointer. Pete wrote, how to talk to a surveyor without making them hate you. Mrs. Patterson wrote, how to keep a notebook a judge can read. An email came from 2 counties over. We used your playbook. Our HOA stopped fining for yard signs. Tiny wins. Correct direction. The FBI case clicked another gear. Agent Rodriguez scheduled, didn't knock. 3 folks took pleas. The county announced a restitution plan that looked like a check stub, not a headline. Names, amounts, plus signs. People paid dentist bills and bought tires. The fund got 3 thank you notes and 4 20s in an envelope marked for toner. Derek wrote asking how to remove a last wall at a last house. We don't approve things anymore, the new board said. They sent him the removal order and a deadline. He complied. The HOA's last gasp, the censure that never happened, evaporated. The email list became a text chain that said useful things. Plow's late. Don't park in the court, and never again. We own you. The new board minutes posted like a recipe. Paid $612 for salt. Renewed lift station inspection. Next meeting 7:05, 7:25 p.m. Lullabies. Sarah's garden wrapped a green scarf around the bollard in spring. Rosemary thickened. Time made a soft carpet that kept cats from doing what cats do. The plaque people sneered at started to look like it belonged, as if the corner had always been a garden. We had a couple of petty uglies. Someone spray-painted trap on the sidewalk. I scrubbed it with vinegar and a wire brush. The ghost of the word stayed just enough to remind me how fear writes. Someone stuffed 3 mailboxes with, "This neighborhood used to be nice." Ben pulled the rest. We didn't feed the flame. Most nonsense dies without oxygen. The fun's fourth win was joyfully small. A group house of restaurant kids got a letter. Take down winter lights. The converted board wrote one line back. We don't decide what shines. The lights stayed until March. The twins pointed every night like they were looking at star maps. We wrote a not-too-serious workshop mission. We teach neighbors to read paper and make good coffee. The back bay got a coat rack for wet January. We chained a used Chromebook to Tony's counter for FOIAs. We taped the FBI's tip sheet to the corkboard. The supply shelf got labels like a shop. Envelopes, stamps, highlighters, binder clips, pens. Don't steal. People didn't. We built a training we could export. The Bollard case. How to design a solution that makes a judge nod. Slides weren't fancy. Photos, code pages. One big, call 811. Q&A lasted an hour. Half the questions were, what if my neighbor is nice but wrong? We wrote a second module for that. Cookies. Appears twice. I kept forgetting to take off the Bollard scarf. In June, a new one arrived, knitted with little rosemary sprigs. From LM, the note said. Mrs. Patterson smiled like a person who can keep a secret. Letters trickled in. We poured 4 bollards. Might need 5. How deep is frost? What coffee do surveyors like? I answered all of them. Sometimes it was a man sure that the only way to beat a bully is to be louder. I sent a 2-page no. Sometimes a woman fined for a flag who didn't know federal preemption was her new favorite phrase. We sent a template. A board somewhere revised a policy it never had the right to write. We didn't post that. We filed it. Derek finished ethics training. The state posted it in grey type next to his discipline. He sent a letter that read like remorse or strategy. Not my job to pass it. My job is to hold him to his next signature. The plow map got a redesign from the Garcia's son. Bigger arrows, bigger font, one-line storm protocol. Check neighbors. Check drains. Check each other. We pinned it to the new board at the entrance where the old HOA logo won't be again. Someone took a selfie and wrote, "We made this." On the impact anniversary, we didn't celebrate. We planted lavender. Bees did their work. Sarah tucked a tiny metal chair in the herb bed for the twins' action figures. They left it there, a permanent fixture of a different kind. Tony taped a poster. Workshop, how to file a thing. Wed 7 p.m. Back bay, bring a pen. Under it, in Sharpie, we can do this. We did. Someone drew a rosemary sprig with a dying green marker. Still tried. I thought about all the engineers who label panels so a tired tech 20 years from now can find the breaker. About judges who write one paragraph and change everything. About electricians who leave honest work and decide not to make noise when silence will keep it newer, longer. We had one more transformation to put on paper and a way to pack it in a box. Then a wallet card. Then the ask that pays for toner. Useful endings, not loud ones. The Bollard still didn't move. The rosemary did. The agenda fit on one sheet of paper. That alone told me we were close to right. Millbrook Heights. Special session conversion vote. HOA. Roads and Utilities. Association Auditor's final report and corrective actions restitution schedule for boundary victims, snow route map and salt budget, no decor code, no holiday policy, no pallet. Just roads, pipes, and the money to keep them honest. We met in the high school cafeteria because the council chambers had learned their lesson about capacity and fire code. Fluorescents hummed. The coffee tasted like meetings everywhere. People filed in. Not angry, just ready, like a post office line on the 15th. Chairman Bob didn't pretend to be a judge. 3 items you actually care about, he said. Let's do the conversion vote and get the roads plowed. The city attorney explained mechanics like a decent lawyer does when he wants you to vote with your eyes open. An amended and restated declaration converts the HOA into a limited-purpose Roads and Utilities Association. That means no fines, no architectural review, no aesthetic rules. 3 powers only. Maintain roads, keep the lift station and stormwater working, publish a budget every quarter. Management company gone. 3 volunteer seats, meetings capped at 20 minutes. Majority vote, then recorded like a deed. Point of order, the last standing board member said, small again. What about open accounts? Receivership shows a positive balance after refunds, the attorney said. Everything moves to roads and utilities. We cut checks for plough and salt, not newsletters. The auditor took a last turn at the mic. Not a grandstander. Shirt a little off. A man who likes Excel more than applause. Final. Numbers corrections. Filed 9 walls moved, 7 fences moved, 3 sheds. Disassembled, reset. 2 boundary notices recorded, 11 code. Officer, separation from employment contractor. Discipline. Consent order, pending process changes. Survey. Corrections require mailed notice to each adjacent owner. Approvals need a second signature when there's a conflict. Then the part everyone pretended not to want. Restitution. A retired judge acting as special master opened a folder like a man handling baby birds. We've got checks to cut, he said. Whitmore consent agreement funds restitution to boundary victims and fees to those who had to fight. Amounts tied to feet stolen and cost to correct. Sources: Whitmore settlement, insurance contributions, city's error fund. Checks today for Patterson, Henderson, Garcia. He called names. People cried the quiet kind. Mrs. Patterson tucked her check into the same notebook that had launched half of this. Karen's lawyer stood to put on the record a protest. The judge smiled kindly. The record has enough of you. The room didn't laugh. It let air out. Then Agent Rodriguez walked in with 3 people who didn't want to be seen. No press conference. Clipboard. The FBI, with the county and state boards, has filed charging documents arising out of a property survey fraud scheme across 4 counties, she said. Filing false instruments, wire fraud, conspiracy. Investigations continue. She didn't say names. She didn't need to. Derek looked down like a man finally reading his own floor plan. Karen scanned for a camera and found none. The vote took 3 minutes. Ballots in a basket. Quick count. Conversion passed, 81-7. We stopped playing neighborhood theater and started doing roads and utilities. The recorder's office stayed open late. Sue had the block pulled like a baker preheating an oven. We filed the amended and restated declaration, Roads and Utilities Association, limited purpose. She stamped it with that old world clunk, and it posted to the index like it had been waiting there. The new board, Ben the mailman, Councilwoman Gonzalez, temporary, and Mark with the skid steer, posted the snow route map the next morning. Blue arrows for first pass, red for second, dots for turnouts. Please don't park here during storms. Salt budget, 2,614 on carryover. Gary the plow texted, seen it, 4:30 a.m. in your neighborhood. You'll hear me. Whitmore Construction's consent order posted within the month. License suspended 18 months. Fines $45,000. Ethics training required. Random audits upon return. Restitution coordinated through county. Bureaucracy written like it should be. Neither cruel nor naive. Karen's civil complaint against me died harder than most paper. Dismissed with prejudice. Fees awarded. Sarah Kim didn't send a snark. She sent a bill. It cleared. Karen moved to a small ranch across town. The couple who bought her old place put up a swing, and twins arrived within weeks. I waved when I drove by and meant it. Agent Rodriguez held a real press release 2 months later. Names redacted. Counts listed. This investigation began with a single certified survey and a homeowner who recorded it. I watched the clip once, printed it for the folder. Quiet things that turned into loud consequences belong on paper you can touch. December's first big storm came sideways. Gary came at 4:31 a.m., blade down, salt falling like grey hail. He looped back for the second pass. The cul-de-sac became a clean donut instead of a slush bowl. The bus arrived at 7:14 and never slid. A kid in a red coat waved. The driver waved back. The board posted a photo and, thank you, Gary, with a Venmo. People tithed $10 to a service they could feel under their boots. A short email from the city attorney hit my inbox. Subject closed. Case numbers and the words dismissed, settled, paid, recorded. He signed his name and added, thanks for making our jobs easier by being boring. I took it as a compliment the size of a clean panel schedule. The board posted the next quarter's budget, $300 for salt, One 900 lift station contract. $600 for culvert rock. 0 for paint letters. 19-minute minutes. Adjourned. Home. Tony hung a sign above the back bay. Workshop. The Justice Fund paid 3 filing fees in January and bought a chained-down laptop for FOIAs. People came in just to shake hands. Tools set out in public make people want to carry them. A reporter asked if I'd take the bollard out now. I'm planting more time, I said. Keeps the cat out. We both grinned. We were done with that chapter. The lesson had set. The next meeting was short enough to stand through. Ben brought coffee. The lift station passed inspection. The culvert at Maple Grove got cleared. The salt fund ticked up by 2s and 5s. Dave Henderson asked about planting oaks. The board said yes. Bring a tree spade. We didn't replace Karen and Derek with new loud people. We replaced them with a system that worked because people wrote nouns on paper and believed them. Mrs. Patterson updated her spreadsheet. Wall removal completed. Fence shift completed. Thanks, with little notes. Cookies, 2 oaks, roof refund, deposited. She sent me a PDF. I printed it. My folder is heavy. That's how you know it's real. We kept the corner steady. I polished the bronze cap sometimes, because I like the way metal tells you when you've done enough. The plaque tarnished to a soft brown. Kids wrapped a paper ring around the bollard one afternoon and called it a crown. It stayed until rain peeled it off kindly. We weren't done. We needed to make the Justice Fund something that could outlast my memory and a shoebox. We needed to put a kit in a stranger's hands and a card in a wallet. The corner held. The rosemary thickened, and the morning smelled like bread when the sprinkler pattered across it. We turned a shoebox into a non-profit because toner costs money, and people shouldn't have to choose between groceries and certified copies. Millbrook Neighborhood Justice Fund, 501c. 3, 2-page charter, free checking, a board that fit behind Tony's counter. Ben the mailman, chair, knows every door, none of the gossip. Sarah Kim, treasurer, likes columns. Mrs. Patterson, secretary, paper moves when she touches it. And me, hands, lifts, pause. Mission statement, IRS line. We help neighbors read paper, record truth, and fix small wrongs with quiet tools. No gala. We built a box. We packed 15 corner kits like electricians pack job boxes. Everything for day one. Nothing you don't need. Corner kit manila folder with tabs, recorder, survey, FOIA, utilities, 801, code, court recorder, how to, with screenshots, grantor-grantee search, index numbers, certified copy stamp, FOIA template, 1 sentence. All records including emails, texts, attachments, laminated 811 card. Call, paint code legend, space for your ticket number, low voltage code excerpt, under 30V here. Check yours. Survey primer. What a PLS seal looks like. State registration number. How to photograph pins. How to talk to a code officer. 3 sentences. Polite request for code section. 1-page affidavit template. I saw. I photographed. Date. Time. Blue ink. 32 GB thumb drive labeled export video. Here carpenter's pencil stamped Justice Fund on one side. Call before you dig on the other, a rosemary sprig in a tiny zip bag, because Mrs. Patterson wanted it to smell like something we could live with. We mailed the first 5 kits. A cul-de-sac fighting fence creep, a porch swing violation, a lakeside amenity path that erased tag. Thank yous came back simple. We didn't know the recorder was for us. We didn't know we could ask for a survey. We didn't know we could say, show me the code section, and wait. I wrote a card for my wallet so fear wouldn't make me forget the order of nouns. How to fix a corner, back pocket card. Breathe. 3 photos, wide, medium, tight, shoe for scale once. Date in frame, print recorder, pull your deed and last valid survey, certified. Note index numbers, .survey. Hire a PLS, get a certified plat. Photograph pins, keep their license number. Call 811, write the ticket number on your folder. Code, print the actual section. Don't quote newsletters. FOIA, 1 sentence. All records including emails, texts, attachments, remarks issue. Ask once, nicely. Show me the code section. Where is the permit? If they can't, stop talking. Start filing, record truth. File the survey and any encroachment notice. Certified beats loud. Build visible, lawful, inside your line. No traps, no tricks, don't touch their stuff. Don't post angry. Quiet wins. I tucked it behind my union card. I handed out more than I hoped to. Agent Rodriguez called one last time. Not an ending, a chapter break. 3 informations, 2 indictments, she said. Your town helped us see a pattern. Keep workshop. You're doing more than we can. Federal agents don't say thanks often. She made room for it. The Roads and Utilities Board found a rhythm you could set a watch by. Agendas. Salt Fund 2006 14s. Gary, plow, paid. Lift station passed. Culvert cleared. Next meeting, 7:05, 7:25 p.m. Minutes read like a recipe. The recipe worked. When storms rolled in, Gary rolled out before dawn. The bus route was a promise, not a wish. Derek's consent order turned into checks. Enough to move fence posts back, enough grass seed to heal. He sent a letter to the paper that read like a coached apology. I don't need sincerity. I need compliance. Karen's last public act was court-ordered community service. Pulling buckthorn at the storm basin in new gloves. She left without making noise. That might be the biggest change. We added a second plaque under the bronze cap. Millbrook Memorial to Community Justice, where neighbors stand together. EST 2024, not swagger, inventory. It tells strangers what they walked into. People started leaving small things around the bollard. Seed packets, babysitting swap notes, a thumb drive with a post-it. Fence truck at 2 a.m. Need? We stapled a cork strip to the mailbox post. Rule. Kind words only. A law school clinic emailed, we're teaching your case. I wrote back, low voltage under 30V is legal here, check yours. Reflective saves lives, call 811, bring cookies when you ask for signatures. People live where you're writing. We hosted Corner Day in June. Not a block party. 10 cuttings, 5 tools, 2 older neighbors who said, we remember when a car used to jump that curb. Chalk lines on the sidewalk. I taught a kid to hold a tape measure to a rebar cap. The twins pushed toy cars around the herb bed and declared the rosemary a forest with laws. Mrs. Patterson added a new sheet to the cork strip. Thank you for respecting corners. Thank you for helping neighbors. Thank you for keeping the plow lane clear. Ben took a dusk photo. Soft flood on the corner. Rosemary throwing half moons. Bronze cap honest. Looks like home, he texted. It did. We added something to the kit because Sarah asked, a kindness card. Kindness card, you made this right. Thank you for moving your wall. Thank you for driving the long way around. Thank you for reading this instead of posting. Need help reading paper. Workshop is Wednesdays at Tony's, 7 p.m. People use them. Not many. Enough to matter. A little girl left a note in the rosemary, pencil pressed through. Thank you for making the cars go the right way. My bike likes it. Better than headlines. Better than fee checks. We sent kits to a town where nurses couldn't hang a thank you sign. Their lawyer quoted the First Amendment properly. 2 days later, the sign was up. They sent a photo. We taped it to Tony's door. Derek called. He didn't say sorry. He said, I'm starting again. Keep your plots true, I said. He laughed, sad. I'm learning. Come to workshop, I said. Silence. A polite hang-up like a man who knows the room he can't enter yet. Doors work both ways if you build them right. We wrote the plow protocol down to a one-pager and posted it. Plow protocol night storm. Gary plows by 4:30 a.m. morning storm. By 9:30 a.m., leave a thermos at the corner if you can. Text if your drain clogs. Check on a neighbor. Email subject. We're a Roads and Utilities Association. Here's the utility. I like that more than poetry. Tony grilled bad hot dogs for the workshop anniversary, and they tasted perfect. We gave away 10 corner kits to neighborhoods that asked this year. A man from across the county lifted one like it was a child. He didn't say thank you. He said, we'll use this. That's better. We printed how to file a thing posters with time, place, pen reminder. Someone drew a rosemary sprig with a fading green marker that still tried. That felt like us. The corner kept teaching without speaking. The rosemary grew. The bollard stayed. We thought the corner kit would be a shoebox solution. It became a way to ship courage. We mailed 5 more kits with handwritten notes. The replies were plain and perfect. We'll use this. That's better than thanks. Somewhere around the 50-minute mark of a story like this, you have to ask for a thing so the quiet can keep traveling. If this helped you breathe easier, like the video, tell me your state, and the pettiest HOA fine or neighbor move you've seen. Subscribe to HOA Busted and ring the bell. Quiet wins need a lift. The corner was fine. The bollard was fine. Sarah planted basil. Bossy Herb wants to be in charge. The plow map saved another morning. The board posted, meeting adjourned, and I felt gratitude for minutes as a genre. I wrote one last card for my wallet, for mornings that try to go wrong. How to fix a morning. Wallet note. Start where paper lives. Ask once. Record twice. Install kindness where you can. Install concrete where you must. Never escalate. Never. Post angry. Teach what you learn. Respect the lane. Respect the people. Respect the lake, the road, the corner. The bollard didn't move. The neighborhood did. Last light off in the kitchen. Sprinkler tapping rosemary, making the air smell like bread. Somewhere a kid draws a chalk hopscotch and nobody erases it by mistake. Sarah leans into me. Listen, she says, no horns, just quiet we made on purpose. Drop your worst HOA story or neighbor saga in the comments. I read everyone. Some of you will become the next episode. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Keep your receipts. Need a corner kit? We'll send one. It smells like toner and rosemary.